You know that person. Something goes wrong. The car won't start. The ceiling is leaking. Someone is falling apart in front of them, and they just go still for a second. Not frozen. Still. Like they're already somewhere inside the problem. Looking around. And then they just start. No spiral. No 10 minutes of anxious Googling. No needing someone to tell them it's going to be okay first. They just start doing something about it. And you're standing there, wondering why your first instinct was completely different from that. So, what is it? What actually separates that person from everyone else in the room? Because it's not really experience. Someone with half their knowledge will freeze just as hard. And once you understand what it actually is, you'll start noticing it everywhere. There's a concept psychologist, Albert Bandura, identified in the late 1970s, called self-efficacy. Strip away the academic framing, and it's just this: your belief that you are capable of handling what's in front of you. Not a general feeling that things will work out. Much more specific than that. It's the quiet internal sense of, I have handled things before, and this thing in front of me is the kind of thing that can be handled. Bandura found that this belief alone, not skill, not intelligence, just this belief, changes how long someone stays with a problem before giving up. It changes how much effort they put in. When it gets hard, it changes whether difficulty reads as a signal to stop or a signal to keep going. So where does it come from? That's where it gets interesting. Think about the first time a kid tries to actually fix something and it works. Not a big thing. Something small. They jiggled the wire and the lamp came back on. They restarted the device and it responded. They pressed down on the cut and the bleeding slowed. The thing that happens in that moment has nothing to do with the lamp or the cut. Something shifts in how they understand themselves in relation to problems. The world stops being something that just happens to them. It becomes something they can reach into and actually move. And after that, every time something breaks, their nervous system doesn't go into shutdown. It goes into something closer to mild curiosity. Like, oh, this is a puzzle. I've done puzzles before. Bandura called these mastery experiences, and research consistently puts them at the top of the list. When it comes to building self-efficacy, not being told you're capable, not watching someone else handle it smoothly, actually doing it yourself, even badly, even partially, that's what sticks. That's what gets filed away and drawn on the next time. It's not confidence exactly. It's a learned relationship with uncertainty, a slowly built sense that not knowing the answer yet is just a starting point, not a verdict. Julian Rotter spent years studying something he called locus of control, the degree to which a person believes their own actions actually determine what happens to them, versus believing that outcomes are mostly down to luck, or fate, or forces outside their control. And people who sit firmly on the internal end of that scale, the ones who genuinely believe that what they do matters, don't just handle broken things better. They're less likely to develop depression. They cope with stress in ways that don't involve their entire life coming apart. They stay with hard things longer. This has been found across different cultures, different age groups, different circumstances. The basic sense that your effort is connected to your outcomes turns out to be one of the most protective things a person can carry. Most of these people were not born with it. It came from specific moments, usually early. Either someone gave them agency. A parent who said, "I'm not going to solve this for you, but I'll help you figure it out," or no one was available to solve it at all, so the kid figured it out themselves. Both of those pathways, the intentional one and the accidental one, lead to roughly the same place. A person who has evidence, real, personal evidence, that their actions produce results. Now here's the part that tends to surprise people, because from the outside, the person who walks into a broken situation and gets calm looks like someone who is certain, like they already know it's going to be fine. Like they have access to some guarantee the rest of us don't. They don't. When a fixer walks into a broken situation, they feel the same uncertainty you feel. The the same not knowing, the same awareness that this might not work. What's different is what that uncertainty means to them. It doesn't feel like a verdict. It doesn't feel like evidence that things are about to go badly. It feels like a starting point, like the first line of a problem that hasn't been solved yet. There's a name for this in psychology: tolerance of ambiguity. The ability to sit inside a situation where the answer isn't available yet and stay functional while you work toward it. Not comfortable, necessarily. Just functional. Just able to keep moving without needing the reassurance first. People who struggle with ambiguity need resolution. Quickly. They need to know it's going to be okay before they can do anything about making it okay. And when that reassurance isn't available, which, in most real problems, it isn't, the anxiety fills the space. And the options narrow down to freezing, or finding the person in the room who seems calm and handing the whole thing to them. And when that reassurance doesn't come, which in most real problems it doesn't, the anxiety takes over. You freeze, or you find the person in the room who looks like they know what they're doing and you quietly hand it to them and step back. The fixer in your life, somewhere along the way, learned to be okay in that uncomfortable in-between space. Not because it stopped being uncomfortable, just because they stopped needing it to resolve before they could move. But I want to pause here for a second, because I think this video would be doing you a disservice if I didn't say this next part. Some people who can fix everything, and I mean everything, practically, emotionally, logistically, for everyone around them at all times, are not doing it from a place of strength. Some of them learned to fix things because that was how they earned their place. The approval lived in the solution. Being the one who handled it meant being valuable. And somewhere earlier in their life, standing there without an answer wasn't just uncomfortable. It was genuinely unsafe. So their nervous system made a decision. I will never be helpless again. And what looks from the outside like capability is actually a coping mechanism that got very good at its job and started wearing a superhero costume. The tell is what happens when you ask them to step back and let someone else handle it. They can't relax. They hover. They offer suggestions nobody asked for. They need the problem to be solvable, not just for your sake, but because an unresolved thing sitting somewhere in their environment feels like an unresolved thing sitting inside them. The fixing isn't really about the problem. It's about managing something internal that never fully settled. Then there's the other kind, and this is the one worth spending time on. The person who fixes things. Because broken things genuinely fascinate them. The gap between not working and working is, to them, one of the most interesting places in the world. These are the people who will take apart something they already fixed just to understand it more completely. Who ask questions that have no practical application. Who explained what went wrong in more detail than anyone requested. Not to show off, just because they find it genuinely delightful. Like they just discovered something beautiful sitting inside, something broken. These people fell in love with competence itself, not the outcome, the process, the figuring out. The moment something clicks into place after it wasn't working, spending time around people like that does something to you. Because what they demonstrate, without even trying to, is that not knowing how to do something is just a temporary condition. It's not an identity. It's not evidence of a ceiling. It's just the part that comes before you figure it out. Broken is not a permanent condition. That's the thing worth actually holding on to here. You can put your hands on a problem and move it. That's not a motivational statement. That's just what the research describes. You might be sitting with this video, realizing you're actually one of these people. That you've always been the one who goes quiet and starts doing something, and you've just never really examined where that came from or why. Or you might be realizing you're not. That the whole idea of being wired this way feels genuinely foreign, like a description of a person you've observed but never felt like. If it's the second one, I want to say something directly. The reason you hand your broken things to other people isn't a personality flaw. It's not laziness, and it's not weakness. It's a history, a specific set of experiences that taught you, early and repeatedly, that problems are things that happen to you rather than things you happen to. That you're on the receiving end of circumstances rather than someone who can reach in and change them. That's not a character trait. That's a conclusion your brain drew from evidence it was given, and conclusions can be revised, but only through new evidence, not through insight alone. This is Bandira's entire argument. Self-efficacy doesn't build through understanding yourself better. It builds through experience. Small ones. Tiny moments of, I tried that, and it worked. Not fixing something dramatic. Not a grand gesture of competence. Just you made the call you were putting off. You tightened the thing instead of leaving it. You didn't wait for someone else to handle it. Just this once. That's where it starts. That's the first piece of evidence that goes into a different file. But here's the part I want to be honest about. Understanding why you're wired this way is only half of it. And honestly, it might be the easier half. Because awareness, without any structure attached to it, has a way of becoming just more content for your brain to process and loop over. You see the pattern. You name it. You find it genuinely interesting. And then a week passes and nothing has actually moved.